Tariffs. Okay, it's a word that can definitely make you pause, right? Especially when you think about your own finances and, how it might bump up prices.
That's exactly right. And navigating that uncertainty is really what we want to tackle in this deep dive. Our mission, basically, is to pull out some clear, actionable things from our source today.
Yeah, steps you can actually take.
Exactly. The steps you can take to prepare your finances so you feel, well, more in control and less just overwhelmed by it all.
Mm-hmm. And the source we're looking at is helpful here because it lays out 5 key strategies, things individuals like you can actually use to build some resilience, financially speaking, when tariffs are part of the picture.
Right.
So, okay, let's dive in. The first point the source really hammers home is, maybe unsurprisingly, prioritizing savings.
Yeah, and this becomes, even more critical when you're looking at potential price increases down the line. It might feel harder to save when costs go up, but that safety net,
Yeah.
it becomes absolutely essential.
It really does. And our source actually quotes Matt Schultz. He's the chief consumer finance analyst over at LendingTree, and he basically says, keep building that emergency fund. Simple advice, but
But fundamental, it's like the bedrock of good financial health, isn't it? Especially when things feel a bit uncertain economically.
exactly. And the recommendation is generally aiming for, what, at least 6 months worth of essential expenses?
That's the target, yeah.
Yeah.
6 months of those must-pay bills and necessary living costs.
What do you think is the biggest hurdle for people actually getting that cushion built? Is it just finding the money?
That's a big part of it, definitely. But also, sometimes it's just making it a consistent priority, treating it like, like your rent or your mortgage payment, a non-negotiable.
Right. Automating it, maybe?
Automating helps tremendously, yes.
Yeah.
Small amounts regularly, they really do add up. And that buffer, that 6-month fund, it's like insurance. If tariffs do push prices higher, or, some other unexpected bill lands on your doorstep.
Which always seems to happen.
Exactly. That fund means hopefully you don't have to reach for a credit card or take on debt just to cover the basics.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. So, strong savings foundation, check. Now, the second strategy our source talks about is getting real about where the money is actually going, cutting back on non-essentials.
Yes, this is where taking a really honest look at your budget pays off. The idea is to really scrutinize your spending habits. Pinpoint those areas where there's some wiggle room.
The wants versus the needs.
Precisely. The discretionary stuff. Things you like having versus things you absolutely need.
And the source gives some pretty concrete examples, doesn't it? Like freezing that gym membership you haven't used in 3 months.
We've all been there.
Ha, totally. Or looking at streaming services, maybe downgrading some. Or even trying like a no-spend challenge for a week or a month.
Yeah, those little experiments can be quite revealing. But you raised a good point earlier. Are there downsides to just focusing on non-essentials if your income isn't really budging?
Right, if the cost of essentials keeps climbing.
Exactly. That's a fair point. Cutting the wants is often the easiest first step, and it can free up significant cash for many people. But if your income isn't keeping pace with rising costs for, say, groceries or gas, just cutting subscriptions might not be enough.
So you might need to look at bigger changes, or even earning more.
Potentially, yes. Or making adjustments to essential spending, too, if possible. But starting with the non-essentials is usually the most accessible way to find some breathing room in the budget. And the source actually mentions a complete guide to budgeting for 2025.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, just highlighting that having that budget framework is a sort of foundational to making these smart decisions about where you can cut back.
Makes sense. All right, strategy number 3. This one feels particularly relevant right now. Rethinking how you approach debt repayment.
It really does.
Yeah.
Because there's a trade-off involved,
Right.
especially when prices might be rising. Matt Schultz from LendingTree points this out again. Money that you're pouring into, say, high-interest credit card debt is money that isn't available for your essential bills right now or for building up that emergency fund we just talked about.
So sort of standard advice, attack all debt super aggressively, might need a little adjustment depending on your specific situation in this kind of climate.
Exactly. It's nuanced. If rising costs are already squeezing your budget, going full throttle on debt repayment might leave you, without enough flexibility for immediate needs.
Okay, so what's the alternative then? Just stop paying debt.
Oh, no, definitely not stop paying. But Schultz suggests exploring options that could improve your monthly cash flow, like maybe looking into a 0% balance transfer credit card.
Right, shift the high-interest debt over.
Or potentially consolidating debt with a low-interest personal loan. The idea is to potentially lower your overall interest payments each month, freeing up cash. But you need to be careful with those, right? Like, what are the catches? Oh, absolutely critical question. With balance transfers, you gotta watch out for the transfer fees. And crucially, what happens when that 0% introductory period ends? The rate can jump way up.
Yeah, I've heard stories.
And with personal loans, you need to understand the interest rate, the repayment term, any origination fees.
Yeah.
Make sure it actually saves you money and improves things in the long run. It's not about ignoring debt. It's about managing it strategically to improve cash flow when other costs are rising.
Got it. That's a really useful distinction. Okay, so we've covered savings, cutting back, debt strategy. What's next? Point 4. Shop smarter.
Yes, this is about being more intentional with your actual purchasing, especially if tariffs start pushing prices up on certain goods.
So what does smarter look like here?
Well, the source suggests a couple of things. One is maybe thinking ahead, stocking up a little on non-perishable foods or household staples you know you'll use, buying them before potential price hikes hit.
Okay, a bit of proactive pantry loading.
Kinda, yeah. Within reason, obviously. And for bigger families especially, they mention considering warehouse clubs. You know, your Costco, your Sam's Club.
Right, for bulk savings.
If the math works out for your family size and usage, yes. But another key part is being aware of which product categories might be most impacted.
Like what?
The source specifically calls out things like electronics, toys, and clothing as areas often affected by tariffs. So maybe hitting pause on buying that new gadget or those extra clothes if they aren't essential right now.
Delaying non-urgent purchases in those areas.
Exactly. And then for the things you do need to buy, the essentials, they suggest using tools like cashback apps, Rakuten, Honey, Ibotta, those kinds of things.
Oh yeah, getting a little bit back on purchases.
Every little bit helps, right?
Mhm.
It just encourages that mindset of being, well, more intentional and resourceful with how and where you spend.
Makes total sense. Okay, that brings us to the 5th and final strategy from the source. And this one feels maybe the most important if you're feeling really unsure about everything, talking to a professional.
Yes, absolutely. Consulting a qualified financial planner, this could be incredibly valuable, especially if you're feeling, a bit lost or overwhelmed trying to juggle everything, saving, debt, budgeting.
We're just unsure what to tackle first.
Exactly. A good planner can help you create a personalized roadmap, one that looks at your specific debts, your savings goals, how you might want to invest, your budget, the whole picture.
It takes some of the guesswork out.
It really does. I remember working with a client during a previous uncertain economic time, and they just felt paralyzed. Sitting down and creating a clear step-by-step plan, it just provided immense relief and a sense of control.
That's powerful. And it's good that Matt Schultz pops up again here, emphasizing that even with all this tariff talk, your big personal financial goals,
Yeah.
things like planning for retirement, maybe buying a house someday, saving for education, a wedding, those things are still really important.
That is such a crucial reminder. It's so easy to get tunnel vision on the immediate worries, rising prices, tariffs, and lose sight of the long game.
Don't let the short-term noise derail the long-term plan.
Precisely. A financial planner can really help you navigate the immediate challenges without sacrificing those important future goals.
Okay, so let's recap quickly. 5 key strategies we pulled from the source today to help you handle potential tariff impacts. First, really prioritize building up that emergency savings cushion.
Yep, at least 6 months of essential expenses if you can. Second, take a hard look at your budget and cut back non-essential spending where possible.
Third, rethink your debt strategy. Maybe less aggression, more focus on cash flow through things like balance transfers or consolidation. Carefully considered, of course.
Right. Fourth, shop smarter, stock up judiciously, consider bulk buys, be mindful of tariff-heavy goods, and use cashback tools.
And fifth, if you're feeling stuck or overwhelmed, don't hesitate to reach out to a qualified financial professional for personalized guidance.
Exactly. While tariffs definitely introduce some financial unknowns, the key takeaway is that there are proactive, practical steps you can take. It's empowering, really. You can mitigate the effects and protect your financial well-being.
Absolutely. So on that note, maybe a final thought for everyone listening. Reflecting on these strategies we've discussed, what's maybe one concrete action, just one thing that you can commit to taking, perhaps even starting today, to strengthen your financial preparedness for whatever might come next with tariffs and prices?